Good evening. It is a worldwide experience that young people are less likely to be engaged in the formal democratic process. But is the case true in South Africa? Students at universities embarked on protests to force government to provide free tertiary education, and they succeeded. But young South Africans continue to face a variety of struggles that they cannot resolve on their own. High unemployment, including among university graduates, health and personal safety, as well as homelessness and many other issues. What are young South Africans up to when it comes to the big political issues of our time? And that's the focus of my engagement with African National Congress Youth League member Rebone Tau. Good evening, welcome. And Luyolo Mpeti, EFF Student Command President. And Peter Kietze, socio-political analyst Oliver Dixon. So the DA represented, the EFF is represented, and the youth Jigelele also represented here. Let me start with you, Rebone. I wanted you to identify the issues, that it should not be up to me, so I can see things from your point of view. What do you think are the three main issues that face the youth today and they are concerned about?
I think in the main is the issue of the youth unemployment. It's too high. We have also seen lately the stats, in the main, young people want a better life for themselves, want a better future for themselves. And government, with the latest investment summit that the president held, one has got hope that things will change for the better in the near future.
All right, and Luyolo, from the DA's point of view, what do you think are the main issues?
I think the main thing is we have to look at the facts. Youth unemployment is on the rise. The ANC has clearly failed to deal with youth unemployment. There was a job summit that took place not so long ago. No young person was involved. No young person was invited. This clearly shows that government has continued to fold their arms when it comes to issues like youth unemployment. We have young people across this country who are speaking to government every single day, who are protesting. We have the Northwest that had a protest not so long ago where young people were saying to government, please hear us, see us, tell us that we matter. And government is not doing that. So how then do we then expect young people to be heard in this country when government itself does not even take young people seriously? We know this why, because the NYDA is continuing to fail young people. The NYDA is investing itself.
But what's the other issue? Is that it? It's the main issue from your point of view?
We have a high unemployment rate, but here we also have young people who come out of universities without experience. Sure. And they are expected to have experience to get jobs. How do you expect someone who has just graduated from a university or TVET college, and you expect them to have experience, and then you expect them to be able to find a job in this work
let me move
economy?
Things along. And from the EFF's point of view, Peter, what are the three main issues?
Well, I think one of the main significant points here is that we have a government that does not prepare the future of young people. Remember, when you are young, growing up in a family, your parents will take care of all the things that you might need as a young person. Where we are sitting right now, to mention only three, it will be very unfair because there is plethora of them. One would speak about us as a student, I'm a student, of course, you were at the university, we fought for this free education. Then the question that ultimately comes is that what then happens after I leave these gates of the university? Is there enough employment out there? Because when you go outside the road right now, you are going to see many people holding their certificates and qualification on the robots. So those are the kind of the issues that we ought to reflect and digest upon.
All right, Oliver, you have the front row seat because you engage the youth on an ongoing basis on their concerns. And what do you think is a pattern that's emerging out there?
You know, Brad Tim, what's interesting, what I've been hearing come from these three people just now. None of them say, look, it's our fault that young people aren't voting. They're all pointing to either government or the ruling party. That's the wrong place to start. We need to reflect on what young people are doing to mobilize. Voting is not an issue of governance. Voting is a matter of mobilization. On all the university campuses in this country, including Gauteng in particular, I'll make the example to them, none of them could have given us a 60% turnout on any of the university campuses. There it's an issue of youth and exclusively youth, and not a matter
of... in terms of their own politics?
In their own politics, they fail to turn out, they fail to mobilize youth people en masse. That's to say, none of these university campuses where grassroots mobilization takes place has been able to achieve a 60% voter turnout. How much more do we expect that to translate into governance at national level?
So your sense then, therefore, is that it is true that young people people may talk, may complain about stuff, but when it comes to the active participation in making sure that, for instance, when they vote for leaders on the SRC, they pitch up to vote, that even on campus they do not do that.
They do, just not in large numbers,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And that's quite concerning, because it is young people there who are responsible for mobilizing young people there. I was at university campuses covering this, and I was particularly there when Peter Kietsi delivered a speech at UJ, and I was able to compare between what SASCO turnout versus what the EFF turnout, and it was considerable numbers for their camps, but it was a university with over 25,000 students weren't able to mobilize at least 5,000 of those students. There were less than 5,000 on each of these camps turning out.
So
that's why I had
say about
20%
20% or so that pitched up for that. I get the point. And in any event, from my point of view, so you know, I thought corruption would be mentioned as one of the issues because it's dominating the news, and that tells you that at least amongst older South Africans, they would think that the problem lies right there, and that is what is delaying development. It doesn't.
I want to clarify a few things
before we
move forward. As the Youth League, we've been the champions on the issue of that. The issue of experience must be scratched, and the ANC has also agreed to that. And the president recently did speak on that, because it's a concern for us that you can't expect a young person who's just graduated to have 5 years experience. So we've been advocating for that internally within the party, and we've won that battle. And secondly, it is wrong to say that the youth were not at the Investor Summit. There's a South African Youth Council, which is a body of young people, where even you have young people from the NGO sector, part of the South African Youth Council. They were sitting in the preparation meetings for the Investor Summit, and they were there also at the Investors Summit. Young people were there and were represented under the banner of the youth.
Well, there are 2 points that I want to address. One, obviously, is that of access to job opportunities by young people, which you are disputing. I would like to hear DA and EFF's point of view on that. But I would also argue that it looks like economic growth is not something that young South Africans raise strongly enough, because it is through the economic growth and creation of new opportunities that young people will get jobs. Otherwise, the argument is about the jobs that are there, limited in number, that you want to compete for with already experienced people. I don't know what your position is in as far as economic growth is concerned, as well as Oliver's point that even on campus, you're not proactive.
Well, can I step in there on the question of campuses not being active and the percentage of turnout, voter turnout? Look, if a university is having 26,000 like University of Johannesburg main campus, obviously that 26,000 it is inclusive of the PhD students, the post-grad students, and obviously that is not the case that they are going to always be on campus every day. So the number that you are dealing with and the chunk that you are going to have to come up with the voter turnout will come from the normal day house students who are staying at
just a quick question.
I want to
because that's based on what he saw.
Absolutely, and I don't blame him.
Let's ask the participation level. What was the turnout like when it came to the actual voting? What is the...
In fact, the Students' Command, I'm sure you have seen in recent that we have been doing extremely well in these universities. And one thing that we have diagnosed there is that we have been increasing the voter turnout massively. That has not always been the case.
What was the turnout?
Previously. Well, at the University of Johannesburg, for the first time in the main campus, for the first time when these SRC elections happened, we had above 6,000 people who come and vote. That has not been happening before. It has always been 4,000. You go to University of the Free State. Yeah. For the first time, we reached...
context, as a percentage, that's less than 30%.
That's fine. We are saying your percentage must not be based on the entire chunk of student populace, because majority of them are not even on campus.
I understand the point that you are making. This illustrates the point that if only 30% weight matters most on campus, and these are direct issues, it may translate into a passive participation, or non-participation whatsoever.
There's no doubt that there's a lack of participation from young people in terms of election and whether SRC or the general elections. That is a fact, and we are not going to run away from that. And I think it's very much unfair for the leader here to say it is because of the fault of political parties, of their lack of mobilization. Let me tell you something. You can stretch as much as you want to stretch your mobilization process. But if young people you are not responding to what do I get myself after voting, number two, is the information sufficient?
And that's exactly the point that we are here for, to discuss why. And we'll continue with our discussions, debate, sharing of ideas in a moment. And engage with us on social media using the hashtag Friday with Tim Modise, and we'll be back in a moment.